Welcome to part 5 of React tutorials for beginners. So in this part we will learn about state. I have done the basic setup for the project. We are still using the same hello world project which we have created so far, and it is running on localhost 3000 npm start. So we will use that one only, and this is the VS Code. But let first learn a bit a difference between props and state, because they are the two most important concept in React. So let me tell the difference, because about props we have already learned. So props, they actually get passed to the components, and state is managed within the component, it is local to it. And props are like function parameters, it is like, and state you can think it is of like a variable declared in the function body. And props are immutable, means immutable means it cannot be changed. So when you pass props to a different component, it cannot change the props. Okay, so that's the one main thing. And then the other thing is that states can be changed, it is local and states can be changed. And how do we use props? We use props in functional component by props, the keyword props, and class based component by this dot props. And say similarly, state, mainly before React 16.4 we used to have state only in class based component, and we used to use it with this dot state. But with the invention of hooks, we have state concept in functional component also, and we use it by use state hooks. We are going to look into hooks after we complete everything related to the class based component. We'll start with hooks after that. So this it is. So now let me go back and we will learn in the code regarding the state. So this is the project. Let me come to the app.js and let me comment all this out, and then I will create a new file. I'm in components, and that file will be counter.js. Let me increase the font size, and I'm using the snippet thing again, RCE. So RCE and tab, it will give me a class based component. I don't want this named export, so I'm deleting it. So it is perfect. And then let us have the state. And for state is generally done within a constructor, initialized within a constructor. So again, class concept, the constructor is a class concept. So for constructor also we will have this constructor and props. In constructor we have to pass props. This is a React thing again. Then super props we have to pass. This super is calling the React method, means as you know that counter we are extending from component, and component is from React. So super props is required, and then after that we declare the state. This dot state equal to count of 0. So what does this mean? This means that state variable has been declared. It is always declared with this dot state, and the count of it is 0. The variable, it is as a key value pair. So you can declare any number of state variables, like 100 also, because in production projects sometimes we have more than 100 states here only count. And then after that you have to give a comma, and just like an object you can treat it as an object, because it is an object. It is this state is a object. So after that, how do we use a state? Means how do we have to use this state somewhere. So I am coming to the return, and let us show this state count, and within curly bracket if you want to show any variable, because it's a variable, so this dot state dot count. So we cannot show directly the count. We have to use this dot state wherever else. See, this is, we are initializing it, and now we are showing it loud like this. Let me save it. Nothing will be shown. Why? Because I have to include this counter here in app.js. Import counter from components counter. Let me save it, and it is refreshing, and the count is 0. Why it is 0? Because we had initialized it with 0. So this is the concept of state. So now let's get a bit forward. So but how we can change the state in this component? So how do we do this? Can we directly increment the state? No, we cannot directly increment the state. That is a main thing to be learned in state, that we always increment state through a method known as set state. So we have to increment this method through set state. So what we are going to do now, let me move this in one line. We are going to have a button. On click of it, the count should increase, so it is like a counter. So come button in increment. Yeah, and that again the famous error, because in this error is coming because in React we have to wrap everything in one same element. So either you can do a div, but I don't prefer div, I prefer fragments. This is one. So why fragments again? Because what happens, this empty thing, if you give, this doesn't affect the DOM. Means in big projects, what happen, if you give div is a block level element, it changes your CSS. So I prefer fragments. So like this, button increment button is there. If I save now, yeah, I will get a increment button. So now we'll add the functionality to it, and on click handler I will give, and then this dot increment count. This is just a function. This does increment count. It will increment it. Let me do one thing. We don't. Let me make this a bit big. Okay. Okay. So this dot increment count is there. So now this function, I have to write it here. Increment count, and inside it, this dot set state, we have to do like this dot set state, then count, we want to increase the count, this dot state dot count plus 1. So what we are doing means, whenever we are clicking on this, on click handler is there button, this dot increment count function will be called, and inside this dot set state will be called. This dot set state, the count value will be increased with this dot state dot count plus 1. So we cannot directly increase the state value. Only the first time when we declare it in a constructor we can directly do this dot state. For every other time, whenever we want to change the state variable value, we have to use this dot set state. This is required, and one of the main thing for this dot set state is that we will learn about this also, that what happens when you run this dot set state, this render, this whole thing is re-rendered, means this runs again, and that is one of the main concept in React, this re-rendering. Because of that, it is React have become so popular because of that, this re-rendering only. We don't have to do anything, it just changes. So let me save it, click, uh, yeah, and we got a very famous error, cannot read property set state of undefined. So set state of undefined. What is actually this is undefined, and this is not a React problem. This is a JavaScript problem. You can read more about this in my blog post about this, and I have a YouTube video also about this. So how to fix it? So the best way to fix it, we'll learn more about this fixing later on, but right now the fix is with the bind keyword. So this dot in the constructor only, this dot increment count equal to this dot increment count dot bind this we have to do. Okay, so now let me save it. So we're binding that this value. So now if I increment, it is incrementing properly. Okay, so this is one thing, and one more thing I want to say that uh, instead of this, there is even a better method than this. Let me comment it out to not to bind the value of this, which is very important. So for that I can use a arrow function. But arrow function you have to call it. So, okay, so like this, let me save it, and it is implementing properly. So it is working. So now, as I have told that this dot set state is very much required, but why it is required? Let us find it out. So let me comment it out. And what we are going to do, we are going to directly update the state. So this dot state, it is popular, it is possible, it will not give any error as such in React, but it cannot be done. I will show you how. By this dot state dot count plus 1, we're directly implementing it, and console dot log this dot state dot count. So I have done this. Let me save it. Yeah, now I have to open my console. Console is being opened. Okay, so now I have to click the increment. I am clicking it, it is 1. I am clicking it, it is 2. I am clicking it, it is 3. It is coming from this console. But closely see this thing. Is it increasing? No, it is not increasing. So why it is not increasing? The state value is getting increased, but this is not increased, and this count is coming from here. This dot state dot one. Why it is not increasing? As I have told earlier, this dot set states have a dual functionality. It has a functionality of re-rendering everything which is there in the render, and if it has a child component, it will re-render that also. So it is not able to re-render it, and so this dot state dot count is not getting updated. So that is the problem. So we have to remove it, and let me comment it out. Let me save it. We will check one more thing. Let me increment now. See, you will see this is 1 and this is 0, this is 2, this is 1. So why does this is happening is we are increasing it here, but this is not increasing because the set state is asynchronous. But asynchronous, what I mean? Asynchronous, I mean that it is like an API call. It will take some time. So it will take some time. So React will not wait for this, and it will go and do this console. The console will have the old value. So how to fix it? And many a time in our program we will require this thing that only after the this or set state is done, we want to run some other other code call some other function or something like this. There are many cases like this will be there. Handle such a situation, we need to refactor it. What is happening in this dot this set state, we can pass a second uh, uh, callback parameter. We can pass a callback parameter here, and here we can pass, we can do a comma, and then we have to do an arrow function, and then we can do anything. In our case, I'm going to put this and push it here. I don't want this. Let me save it now. Okay, now let me do the increment. C1 1, it is coming from here, 2 2 3 3 4 4. So it is working exactly fine, because it is been called only after this has been done. So this is a very important concept. I have seen it been used in production code a lot. So this is a very important concept. So the next thing which we are going to do is change it a bit and see a special case, which again is a very important thing. I've seen it again at a lot of places in a production code. So the increment count, let it be there like that, and let the console be also there, because we will require it. So increment 5 times. I have a new function increment 5 times, and actually this will call this dot increment count, and not one, but as you might have guessed, 5 times. It is calling it 5 times. Now what will happen, I am not going to call increment count, I'm going to call increment 5 times. So I have to change it here. I've changed it here like this. And now I will click on the increment button, and according to the code, what should happen, according to the code, it should increment it by 5. See, it is 0, so it should increment it by 5. Let me click it here, but no, see, it is 1 only, and this type of console comes means when the same value is repeated, this type of console comes means 1 only is going 5 times, being shown 5 times. It means that. So why does this happen? This happens because React have a functionality to group. It can group multiple set state call into a single one, because of performance. React is all about performance. So React internal mechanism, what it does, it will, we are doing multiple set state. See, I'm doing this the increment count, it will go here, it will do the set state. Again, this dot increment count, it will do the set state, it will make it. So React don't want to do this much this dot set state, because it will every time render everything, so it's not a good operation. So for that reason, what is there, React automatically it will group all those set state and into one for a better performance. So how do we say we means prevent this? So this is by default a special case. So we have to, we can update the state based on the previous state. So for that we need to pass the function as argument instead of the regular object. So what does I mean by that? It's better to see it in the code. So this dot sets, uh, let me first remove this, not remove this, let me keep it here. And then after that, this dot set state, and this is how we do it. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to pass priv state, and a arrow function. I need one more bracket like this. Yeah, and then count prev state, and I'm using previous state, not the current state. Count plus 1. So I am using the previous state, not the current state. And let me save it now. Let me increment, and it incremented to 5. Then it incremented to 10. Then it incremented to 50. So it is working perfectly. If we are using the previous state, and that also we have to pass it. See, here we are not passing it anything here, but here we are passing the previous state here. So this is all about set state and various form of set state. And mostly you are not going to use the last two things which I have shown. They are special cases, but in your React career you are definitely going to use it sometime. But the first thing is the thing which you are going to use most, and the second and the third case are also there. So hope you learned something about state and set state. So see you soon in the next part.